We're right back. We are having a discussion right here on 59 Minutes. I'm here with Dr. Caroline MOSE. She's a governance and cultural expert talking about all manner of things. Daktari.
Yes.
What will Uhuru be remembered for the most?
I think that can be seen in today's paper on page 3 of the Daily Nation.
Oh, they've given us the good, the bad, the ugly.
They've given us the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, they're talking about roads.
Yeah.
You know,
the expressway. I like
yes,
that.
there was the expressway. There's all these roads that he built. They're talking about electricity, which he was calling the last mile initiative, which I think I would say is one of the positives of the last 10 years, because prior, even my aging dad who lives uko na Ushago there, he didn't have power. Now he has power, and I don't think he's the only one. He's talking about land, the issuance of 6 million title deeds. They're talking about Huduma centers. That's actually a big one, and GDP and tax. That the gross domestic, the GDP went and it doubled from 5.31 trillion in 2013 to 12 trillion by last year. But these things don't necessarily equate, apart from the Huduma Center and electricity. Some of these things don't necessarily equate to things that Kenyans can say, you know, this is what we benefited, this is how we feel at a close level.
Like free maternity helps in Kibaki's.
Yes.
Big time.
We can, yes.
Tangible.
You know, yes, it's tangible. There was free maternity, there was free education, and you know, so the tangible things were not necessarily, you know, apart from the Huduma centers. It's difficult to say that this is what Uhuru brought. Maybe we'll feel the effect of that a few years down the line, right? The bad, and that's because the public debt, the amount of money that he took to build these roads and to do all these things was immense. Out of every 100 shillings, I think 70 is being used to pay off debts. That's huge, that's huge. Corruption, I mean, we talked about
on
this.
debt, by the way. We started at a debt of 1.79 trillion. And he's exiting at a date of 8.4 trillion.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And he will say that he built the roads and did all these things. But we also know that point number 2, corruption. A lot of that money disappeared into thin air.
Yeah.
You know, we had a lot of, we were hearing state capture, we were hearing all these cartels and all these shadowy figures that ideally, you know, took the money, but we don't know who these people are. There were so many dams that were to be built, the money
And he did tell
disappeared.
that he alluded himself and said 2 billion is lost daily.
Yes. I mean, if you think
you
think about it, 2 billion being lost on a day, every 12 business hours, money was going somewhere, you know. So for me, I feel this one on corruption is a big one because it kind of overshadowed, you know, all the good that he did. Think about the COVID billionaires, for example. We were in the middle of a global pandemic. People were indoors because of the curfews. You know, your business is dying, things are going wrong, you're getting sick, you don't have NHIF, and then you're hearing that money that had been donated, money that had been taken as loans for COVID, things that had been donated had been diverted into all these private hands. That, for me, I feel, you know, was a big one. That's a big one. So he will be remembered. The Jubilee government, 10 years of Jubilee, will be remembered specifically for public debt and corruption. And of course, the nation is talking about the public wage bill and taxes. We are overtaxed as a country. There's all this RDL. When you import something, half of the money you're paying is taxes. I don't know, there's the railway tax, there's I don't know what tax. It's ridiculous. And then we have pay, and at the same time you have VAT. So, you know, we are overtaxed, and I think this became worse. But even beyond this, I think another thing that he will be remembered for was stifling the civil society. We don't have a civil society anymore, which, you know, ends up being a so-called
And not
opposition.
appointing the judges.
Not appointing judges, you know, wielding power and even ignoring the constitution. I think we are partly where we are, especially because we ignored Chapter 6 of the Constitution. We allowed all these corrupt people to be in power. And I think that's a legacy that Uhuru Kenyatta cannot run away from.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's difficult to come back from that because I don't know. So where does the broom begin to sweep from?
Oh.
Because I hear, you know, KK say, you know, we are getting a country that was worse than when Kibaki left Moi. And I said, It's up for debate.
It's up for debate. It's up for debate because I think we are also sweeping a lot of things under the carpet. We should not forget that Ruto was part of Jubilee government from 2013. Yes, there was the handshake, and after the handshake, this and this happened. But even before the handshake, we had a lot of scandals, a lot of corruption in the first reign of Jubilee government. Yeah. So when you ask where does the broom begin to sweep, do we need a broom or do we need something bigger? We might actually need something bigger. Is corruption and fighting corruption...
Are you saying is old wine in new wineskins?
It could be. It could be. Because the crux of the Jubilee
new
government...
wine in old wineskins. I don't know it.
The crux, I think it's old wine in new wineskins.
In new wineskins, yeah. So rebranded.
Yes. We keep rebranding. And at the end of the day, this is what I always say. The crux of the Jubilee government was neoliberalism and capitalism, where everybody is presented at the table. You come to the table with something. What is your value as Levi? What is my value as Caroline? If I don't have value, then I'm useless. That is it's the whole essence of capitalism. And so when we are all reduced to a commodity value at the end of the day, it means that we are easily disposable in the face of capitalism. Mm-hmm. If the Kenya Kwanza government comes in and upholds the same tenets of capitalism, of everybody hustling and looking for money, you cannot hustle. It's like saying you will pull yourself up. You'll enter a bucket and then you'll pull yourself up. You can only go so far. If we don't fix the mess, the corruption that is in the country, the mess that we exist in, where everything is at the top and it is being circulated amongst a select few who hold, they're the ones holding, the proverbial gonads in their hands. They're the ones who are squeezing and saying the money must come here. And we don't have a choice because these are the people who are holding the banking sector. They're the people who are holding the economy in their hands. If we don't fix that, then it means it's going to be more of the same. There'll be no other way. It's going to be more of the same. Of course, there have been many promises. If you look at the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, for example, a lot of promises in there. We are going to revive agriculture. We are going to pay, we'll have teachers, we will relook at the education system, we are going to look at the healthcare system. Is there bandwidth to fix everything at once? Probably not. So it would be interesting to see what the priorities of the Kenya government, the Kenya Kwanza government are. When Ruto is sworn in tomorrow, what's his first call of business, apart from, saying these are my CSS, this is how I'm going to run government? What is the first thing they're going to sort out? Unga. How are they going to do that? If you look, we are in, we don't exist in a vacuum as Kenya. We exist in a community of nations. IMF is already, on our neck saying, remove the fuel subsidies, remove the Unga subsidies. How do we protect the Kenyan people from fuel going at 159 today to 190 tomorrow or even 200 by next month? How do we protect the Mwananchi from that? How do we make sure we bring Unga down? So it would be...
The how is key.
The how is key. The how is very key. I'm curious to see how they will alleviate some of the problems we have. Because if you cannot feed the nation, if you cannot transport a nation, then it means we are in serious trouble.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yesterday he alluded to the elephant in the room, which I think was something they...
Yes.
I saw one of the reporters from one of our, media houses ask a question about corruption and get booed at Karen. Yes. Did you see that?
Yes.
Yeah? And yesterday I saw President-elect talking about leave the cartels to me. For a long time, there has been that backlash.
Yes.
That Kenya Kwanza has a lot of people who have been...
Who have been mentioned in corruption,
adversely, including himself.
Yes.
And there has been suggestion that some of those types of mentionings have been part of what they called the machinations by the state.
Yes.
To spoil names, to deal cases against them, to vilify and persecute them.
Yes.
For going against the president, Uhuru.
The outgoing president.
Yeah, yes. Yet at the same time, the outgoing president, and everyone agrees, as he said, 2 billion is lost daily. People will agree quickly that corruption is the elephant in the room.
Yes.
That even when we talk about, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, but if we do them and 80% of people are cooling the money that's supposed to be going somewhere, then we have a problem.
We have a problem, yes.
So yesterday, when I heard that about leave the cartels to me, I thought, well, at least now the conversation seems to be on the table.
Yes.
Do you have confidence?
Good question.
In them putting that as a, as we are talking of, we're going to reduce UNGA prices. We're going to, make the cost of living. Will we then highlight how the money is getting lost as hard?
One, to your original question, I think both things are true. I think both things can be true at the same time. I think part of that entire discussion, that narrative around corruption, part of it was a persecutorial one, where you are trying to cast aspersions on people. But I think some of it was also true. I mean, where was the 2 billion going? It wasn't coming to my pocket. It wasn't coming to your pocket. It was going somewhere. And this somewhere it was going were people who are close to power, people who have access to tenders, people who
so
know...
wanajuana
wenyewe. Let's be honest about that. It's good for us to be honest as a country. Going forward, we are going into a new chapter. It's good to start that chapter with honesty. I think that if anyone has the power, the chest to deal with corruption, it is Ruto. One, he's actually coming into power with the reality that about 7 million people voted for him. This is a country of about almost 50 million people. A large number of people did not vote because of feeling disenfranchised from power.
Almost 8 million.
Yes. We cannot say these people didn't vote so they don't have a voice. They have a voice. Another 6 million voted for Azimio because they had their own reasons. We cannot say that these people need to shut up because they're not in power, because Kenya will not belong to the people who only voted for Kenya Kwanza. And mind you, like I always say, not everybody who went and voted for Azimio was voting 6-piece Azimio. Some people actually voted for Kenya Kwanza governors, for Kenya Kwanza MCAs, etc., etc. So we have to look at this as a country of 50
I'm one of those
million.
people who like assorted suits.
Me as well. I went in and I was voting. My MP was an independent, for example. Yes, my MP was independent.
Yeah.
My MCA was Kenya Kwanza, strongly UDA. But we love him because he was working for us. So we gave him, we said, go back and continue working. So we have to look at things that way. It's not just Kenya Kwanza versus Azimio. This is a mixed bag. There is nuance in there. So we have to approach this and say, and I think this should be or may be his approach, that I now have to take care of not the 7 million people who voted for me, but I need to take care even of the children didn't vote, but they're going, they're part and parcel. They're feeling the pinch of the 2 billion that was being lost every day. They're people who they're old now, they're elderly. They may not have voted, but they still have a stake in this country called Kenya, right? So he may decide the first thing to do is deal with the cartels. When I heard him saying that, I actually believed him, because I feel he is coming. He is a kind of a person, even beginning with him as an individual, the work ethic that he has, it's legendary. From way back in his days in campus, everybody knows this is a person who used to wake up very early in the morning, this is a hard worker, etc. So on that scope, I think if anybody was going to have the chest, the wherewithal to deal with corruption, I think that person is William Ruto. So when he said that, I actually believed him, there's a sense in which he comes in and he has to convince the entire country that I am working for you, I am here on a hustler narrative, I'm here for Mama Mboga. Of course, we know that these were campaign rhetorics, but at the end of the day, these are the people who also voted for him, so he has to look after their interests. Also because we know that no one wants to be a one-term president, so there's another term that he will go into this term knowing that there's another term in 2027 that he has to start planning for, being a forward planner. So he might actually go in and actually do
10 minutes we only have, and I have to ask you,
yes.
What next for Raila Odinga?
Raila Odinga is
if you were in his kitchen cabinet, what would you suggest?
Well, I'm not in his kitchen cabinet, and the people in his kitchen cabinet are very, we don't want to say too much about those people. There's been, there was even a memo that was released yesterday from Azimio's side, threatening people and saying, stop talking about our people.
No, if he was there flipping channels and he landed on this one this morning, what would you say?
I would say, he's done his part. He has done his part. And it might not be possible to say that today, because I remember even when Kibaki left power, people were like, he's spent his 10 years, grand corruption, Anglo leasing, post-election violent. Wacha mzee aende akaretire. The other day is when people were thinking of him fondly and saying, look at what he did.
Oh, they call him the best president.
He was the best president we ever had, and all those things. Even Moi, when Moi left power, people were pelting him with stones and objects. A few years down the line, everybody started talking kindly about him and saying, look what he did. He actually took education across the country. He built schools. He did this. So history has a way of being a little bit kind. Unless you're Hitler, for example. History has a way of being kind to people. So people will look on Raila as a person who has fought for the country, a person who has contributed to jurisprudence at the Supreme Court, for example.
Should he play any role actively, positionally? Should he
I think the only thing he can do
and play golf?
He could do that, but I also think that in exiting stage, he needs to think about the future. Which leaders has he groomed to take over, for example? How many people has he brought, whether it is into his party? Is he going to keep rebuilding the, building the party? Or is ODM as a party going to die off? So I think these are the things he might want to grapple with. He's now old. I don't think he'll get another stab at the president. I think this was his best stab yet. So the idea of the presidency at this point, I think, is gone. But he's being a statesman and leaving lasting institutions for him, I think, might be the priority. So if you was to flip this channel, I would say to him, who have you groomed? Not just to take over from you, but to take over, and which new crop of leaders has he groomed? Not just in Nyanza, across the country.
Okay.
What will he say is his legacy as Raila? Who did he groom? Who did he bring up? How will he rebuild? And because I think the party needs rebuilding, how will he rebuild ODM and leave it as a strong institution?
Good questions.
Yes.
Kalonzo Musyoka?
Kalonzo Musyoka, I think, is in a very good position. I think that he has built a party that is still beholden to him, which is Wiper. Wiper had a very strong showing in the last elections. You know, there were all these women that it had supported. So when he says that he's going to be in the opposition, I don't know what he meant by that, but I think he still has a lot of influence. So through the party, he's got governors, he's got MPs, he's got MCAs. Through the party, I think Wiper as a party is better structured than ODM. So through the party, I think he will be able to influence some decisions being made at Senate, some decisions being made in Parliament, some decisions being made even at the gubernatorial and at the gubernatorial level. Is that enough for him? Is that enough for him?
Does he get to feel the shoes of opposition, maybe fully?
Again, there is no opposition in quotes, you know, as per the Constitution. Yeah. But will he do something? We look forward to see.
Do you think he flops and gets in bed with government years down the road?
He might. He might, because at the end of the day, Kalonzo Musyoka is an astute politician. Politics is not about being married and, you know, you place yourself somewhere and put concrete on your feet. It's about being flexible.
It's about being flexible.
And this happens across the board. Even Ruto himself at one point was a member, I think, of ODM at some point. Then, so it's not about fixing myself to one position. It's about maneuvering this way and that way. Of course, he has this reputation of being the watermelon and this flip. Every politician does that. So I think if he does that, it will not be shocking. It will not be surprising.
Wajakoya?
I think Wajakoya will just go back to his books and his legal practice. What he did, Wajakoya, was...
He's complaining, by the way. He says he doesn't have a life anymore.
Because?
He walks on the street and everyone asungwe.
Well, that's part of the cause. If I put myself out there as a presidential candidate and I have a very interesting manifesto, I'm talking about weed, for example, it goes with the territory that I will be walking in the streets and people will know who I am. So that for me is not something I take seriously as a complaint. You know, he knew that was what was going to happen.
Do you think he was a one-hit wonder?
Not necessarily a one-hit wonder. Will we see him again vying as president? We might.
That's the question.
For the sake of it. I mean, I think he did it for the sake of it. What he did, though, was inject into the public conversation very interesting things. Do we need to legalize marijuana, for example?
Do we need to breed hyenas?
Well, that one with... I don't know about that one. and the gonads of hyenas. I don't know about that one. But he injected, and he actually animated our young people in society in ways that were very surprising. So one hit wonder, probably not. Will we see him again? We might see him again. The conversation that he injected into the public is certainly not going to go anywhere soon. So
that still goes on. Yeah,
it still goes on. Even with our young kids who are below 18. Yeah. They still talk about Wajakoya. They're talking about weed. They're asking us tough questions about weed, And this is a conversation that is going on worldwide.
Yeah.
So I think that is a conversation that will continue to go on. Will it be focused on by Kenya Kwanza? Probably not.
So tomorrow is day one of the Ruto era.
Yes.
When do you think the celebrations end? People have been celebrating.
Have they though?
When do we end and get work?
Have people been celebrating? That's the question.
Kenya Kwanza, yes, I see them.
In Kenya Kwanza,
today I've been seeing watu wanaweka post ya kadi ya kwenda State House. Mimi sina, by the way.
Would you have wanted one to
I don't like crowds.
You are on air. You might actually get a card.
I wouldn't have wanted one for one reason.
Yes.
I really don't like crowds. That whole thing of having to go there, I don't know.
Hours in advance.
Park in the US, sit hours. I really don't like that kind of story. You sit from 7 o'clock for something that will start at 11 o'clock. I'm not passionate like that.
No, you are now in the presence of power. These are protocols that have to be followed. When will the celebrations end? I think the celebrations were very muted this time around, not because people...
Not on social media. People there are high-booting each other daily. When does that end?
It might not end, but then remember this is on social media. The reality on the ground is that we are coming off of a global pandemic, which I think is still ongoing. I hear people, the numbers are still, they're being discussed. Maybe not as top line, but they're being discussed. We are in a place where we have monkeypox, we have polio somewhere in the world. We have a very depressed economy. Fuel, for the first time, I think in my own memory, is at 159, likely to shoot upwards to 180, 190. Unga, we used to buy for 70 shillings, and a few years ago, I think 2-3 years ago, 85 shillings, is now going over 200, Bob.
Yeah, we're discussing.
Yes.
Tissue paper is 500.
Tissue paper we used to buy, the one that was luxury, you'd say, was 300, Bob.
Yeah.
And guys would look at you like, oh, you are among the rich ones who are buying. That one that you used to buy for 300, Bob, is now shooting up to 1,000, Bob. This is tissue paper.
Yeah.
So
I had some guys say, Turudi Komatawi.
You see? And, it sounds flippant, but it's not. Yeah. People are really suffering. Yeah. I understand that a lot of people have lost housing. And if you walk in the CBD at night, you'll find families sleeping in the streets. Yeah. People don't have food every day. And I know this is also your experience. Every day on social media, at least I am involved in doing a fundraising for somebody. Yeah. Someone is being evicted. Someone doesn't have food. Someone doesn't...
Even just cries for help.
Cries for help.
And I say,
have no money.
My salary has not increased, but it seems to be spreading further.
It's spreading further. It's not even enough for you at the end of the day. That's where we are. So it's not that people didn't want, yes, there is diet high booting and all that, but I think I feel that this time around the celebrations were a bit muted because of where we are as a country. The economy is in shambles. People are hungry. There is no money that is, freely circulating in our economy, and I think people are waiting with bated breath to see what's going to happen. How is Ruto going to deal with the cartels? How is he going to bring down the cost of living? How is he going to ease, the burden a little bit? And even I, who has a salary, I'm feeling the pinch, we are all feeling the pinch. I know very many people who are no longer driving selling their cars or parking them because fuel is not affordable. So
it's not a luxury item.
So at the end of the day, when the simple things like fuel, like unga, are now becoming luxury items, there is a problem. So people are hungry, people are stressed, people are depressed. Not just in terms of even the finances, even the national psyche. You go social media, everybody is angry, everybody is lashing out, because I think generally as a people we are depressed. And so we need to see, and I think this is going to be, one of those things. And I always said, regardless of who was going to take over power, they were going to have a long...
It's going to be tough years.
It's tough years. So I'm curious to see how Ruto is going to do this. I think, and I'm saying this as a very objective Kenya, I think he was always going to be the best man for the job. because the job of removing us from the hole that we've dug ourselves in, or the previous regime dug us into, is not going to be an easy one. This is going to be hard work, and we need someone at the helm.
All hands on deck.
All hands on deck. We need someone at the helm who is not lazy, someone who has not just the physical but mental and spiritual fortitude to get us out of this mess.
Thank you, Dr. MOSE.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate the conversation.
Yes, it was nice to be here.
Yes, we wish, of course, the President-elect all the best.
All the best, yes.
And over to you now, you know. What can we say?
Yes.
The baton changes tomorrow.
Tomorrow, we wish him all the best. At the end of the day, he is our president.
Yeah.
Whichever side of the divide you're in, or even if you didn't vote, because a large percentage of people didn't vote, this is still our president, whether we voted or not. So, you know, if he sinks, we all sink with him.
Yeah, let's wish him well. Let's give him support.
Yes.
Because anyway, we have no other country to go to.
We don't.
Hapa tu. Hapa tu.
Yes.
As
Late Kibaki would say.
That's it, 59 minutes. Stay tuned for Leah coming up with Ilosu. God bless you. Tomorrow we won't be here. We'll be, of course, checking out the inauguration and all that goes with it. So stay tuned for that. Good day.
Good day.